Okay, welcome back to the Fantasy Chancer Football Show on this man's channel. He's actually a guest today on the upper tier, Mr. Niall Hogan. How you doing?
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having me on your channel, and thanks for being on my show on your channel. It's fucking great.
No problem, yeah. Spider's web.
You're you're a happy man tonight?
Yeah, I'm very happy actually. Yeah, well impressed today now. Happy. I just hope that is the reboot to get the season going now because we've been god awful bar a handful of games really, So it's nice to actually put in a performance, and it's nice to actually show people that Holland can be stopped and Man City
Hmm.
can be beaten. And what it means is the Invincibles title continues on for another season. So yeah.
Yeah, the little small trophy, small glimmer of hope that we have. Like I see a lot of Arsenal fans are delighted now, and I suppose like you can't really blame them. You know,
No,
very
absolutely
hard
not.
to go through a
And
season
your
unbeaten
4 point
now.
gap,
I don't.
and you have a 4 point gap
Yeah,
now as well. So yeah, happy days.
yeah. Thing I'll say about it is people will say they haven't really been tested, but they've beaten Liverpool now. The other test they failed was at Old Trafford, unfortunately, and then all the rest of the teams you kind of be expecting to win those games, but at the same time, it's very hard to do it.
Yeah. See, the thing about it is, I think every week is a test for you when you're top of the league because everyone's out to beat you.
Yeah.
And it feels like nearly every week is like a cup final. And today would have been a tough one for you. As I know you've been really good there in the past. But look, that doesn't guarantee anything with the way this season is going and stuff like that. It's a kind of a peculiar kind of season. So, but to get that win, that's a real good win, a 1-0 and stuff like that, and up against a tough team as well in Leeds. So yeah, it's good to be able to
Yeah.
grind it out away from home as well.
Like I think if we can get to this World Cup break being within about 6 points of whoever's top, I think that's decent enough, because I like where we are now, like we're not going to win the league. I think Man City are going to win the league, barring something miraculous happens. But if I look at a successful season, I'd like to get some form of trophy and be within a respectable distance of whoever is champions. That'd be a good
Yeah,
season for
you,
me.
you want to you want to feel like you're still in a title race nearly till the death.
Yeah.
But I think, and I said it on a couple of shows there last week as well. Del Boy was on and stuff like that, and I was saying, puff your chest out. Puff your chest out and dream and believe and stuff like that. That's what we had to do. It took us 30 years to win it, and but enjoy the ride and enjoy every minute of it. But be positive. You're top of the league. I think you'll be top of the league come the World Cup anyway. I don't see that changing greatly.
It's a great shame now. I know we're going to talk about this week in the fantasy football that
Mm,
that match isn't happening this week with Arsenal and City because that would have been a
yeah.
cracking way to set it up with them losing today and us winning.
Although what I would say is it's probably benefiting you in such a way as they'd have a backlash now after. So
Mm,
you could, I'm not saying they would go out and absolutely drub you, but they could go out and potentially put a beat down on Arsenal after the
yeah,
disappointment of that. I'm sure Pep is going absolutely ballistic. I know he said during the week it's the most difficult game in his season going to Anfield and stuff like that, but kind of whether he believes what he says or whether that's just mind games, I'm not too sure. But he
mm,
would have been very disappointed today in the way that we actually saddled their midfield really and cut off the supply to Holland. He didn't get much supply and
yeah.
stuff like that. But it was a brilliant game. It was intense. It was fierce. It was nervous. It had everything in it. But um, yeah, no, it's great to get a win like a big win like that and show that we can go out and play even with injuries and stuff like that. My heart was in my mouth with the substitutions and stuff like that, but then I can
Mm,
understand Fabinho being booked last 10-15 minutes of an intense game. You need to whip him off. You don't want to go down to 10 men and then give up the 2 points and
yeah,
end up with a point or something like that. So yeah, it was a shrewd move, even though my heart does be in my mouth sometimes when Hendo comes on in those bigger, more intense physical games. Milner
yeah.
was brilliant at the back. Gomez was man of the match. I thought Salah
Virgil
could
was
have had
brilliant.
two, if not three. Uh, as you said to me in the WhatsApp group, Nunes needs to be less selfish.
Yeah, I think there was a couple
Um,
of occasions there, particularly when you
yeah.
were 3-on-1 there near the end.
Mm. I thought Harvey was brilliant as well. Harvey was brilliant. Only a young lad and stuff like that to stand up to the likes of that seasoned midfield and stuff like that. I thought Gundogan was an interesting choice of personnel, and it was interesting as well. I think they only made no, what was I going to say? I just think just the way I thought Foden. I thought he was kind of he was kind of in the game but not in the game. I just think they were very disjointed and stuff like that. And look, they didn't get the rub of the green today, and we did. But a bit of luck has been coming our way as well. So, but
Yeah,
we go on, yeah.
I think the 12th man kind of carried you over the line today as well at times, like, which
Huge,
is very important
huge.
there, you know.
Anfield is huge for us in that vein. They never stopped all day. They were cheering every pass. They were cheering every shot, every kick. They cheered every single player. They never dropped their voice. They were at their loudest in the last 20 minutes and stuff like that. And they knew that we needed them, and they gave it all. And that's all you can really ask for, But it'll mean nothing if we don't go out on Wednesday and beat West Ham now. You know what I mean? It's you have to build on it now and stuff like that. So that'll be another tough game. So need to
West
go.
Ham and Forest this weekend. At 6 points, you need to get out of them and then see
Yeah,
where you're at.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think if we can, as I said, I think if we can see out the month with those 2 wins and stuff like that, I think we'll be okay.
because Man City don't play on Thursday. If you win your 2 games, by the time they play next, it could be 7 points is all between you and City. That's fucking a massive turnaround.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know.
Yeah, and it's a psychological. I mean, we turned around 14 points last season and got to within a point of them. So
Hmm.
it can be done, but you just don't necessarily want to be doing that, and especially when you're not in a rich vein of form and you don't have your full squad and you have injuries and stuff like that. It's different if you have a full squad and you think you can go on a run and rotate and stuff like that as well. And then we'll obviously have a huge game coming up against Ajax in the Champions League. We need to get a point out of that to qualify, and then we've
Yeah.
got Derby in the Carabao Cup as well. So it's ticking fast at the moment, and for us as content creators, it's brilliant. It's non-stop at the minute, non-stop
Football.
every 3 days, churn and gear out.
Yeah. Yeah. Football never sleeps.
Yeah.
So your fantasy football, you enjoying it? We're going to have a look at your team from this week and see how you done.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot, like, because I don't normally, I'm not a huge fantasy football fan, so normally what I do is I put a team in, and I kind of leave it there, and you'll see even from the start of this season, I think I had Rafinha in there for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and he had gone to
Yeah.
Barcelona or something like that, and it was like I just never even bothered, like, that kind of way. And but this season has been good. Darren has been giving me a few tips, Dazzler off the shows and stuff like that. He's been giving me a few tips and stuff like that, what to look out for and stuff like that, and it all makes kind
Yeah.
of sense. He's struggling himself, actually, funny enough, in the league, and I'm using his information to do mine. And I think when it's all correlated tomorrow, I might be top. I'm not too sure. I might be top of the league when looking at
Yeah, the
it. I'm
leagues are
not
just
too sure.
updating there now at the moment, so we won't
Yeah,
have
so
a
I
kind of a
could.
look at them tonight.
Yeah, I could be top, although I had to spend a few bob on transfers for this coming week because I was heavily made up of City and Arsenal players.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I'll show you what I done in a minute as well. But look, we're
yeah,
looking at
yeah, cool,
your team from this weekend. Like Sa there, penalty save, 14 points.
brilliant. Yeah,
Trippier, Newcastle should have won that game today actually at Old Trafford from what I seen.
yeah,
Saliba popped up with a clean sheet again. Cash
mm,
unfortunately didn't. Stevie
yeah,
G, is he in trouble there?
yeah. I think he's I think it's pretty close at this stage now. I would say,
Mm,
just depends on whether see, it depends on who's available. Like, you look at Wolves, they're going out in the market and they can't convince anyone, and they're having to go back to Nuno. It looks like Nuno's going to be the man to take over again. And in fairness, he did really well there with them when he was there and stuff like that. So he obviously
yeah,
understands it. But I don't know. It's an interesting one, the Villa one, because just when you think he's gone, he pops up with a result. I mean, that would have been a tough one today as well. Chelsea, Chelsea in great form with Potter and stuff like that. They're playing really,
mm,
really well. Your boy from our shows, Mount, is doing the
yeah.
business.
Might have to get
Absolutely
him into my
flying.
team.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, speaking of which, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, very good. And like the City boys, I mean, obviously they let me down today. Thank God. I'm happy to sacrifice the
yeah.
points in the fantasy for the win in reality. But
Hmm.
De Bruyne, Foden's been electric for me. Haaland's been unbelievable as my captain. Jesus has been fantastic. Saka's been decent, but he hasn't quite
He
delivered as much as I would have thought
he's picked it
in
up
terms of
lately.
points. Yeah, lately, last couple of weeks. The difference in I have Trossard. I had Trossard on my bench and Guimaraes in today. And every time I swap between those two, what happens is one crops up, like Trossard crossed up with a hat trick, and I had
And he's
taken
on
him
the
out and
bench.
put Guimaraes in, and then vice versa. Then I switch it around, and then it stalls a little bit and stuff like that, which is the nature of the beast, really, with fantasy football. Scamacca I put in this week. I put him in because he's in a rich vein of form at the moment with West Ham. But I had to take, I think it was Mitrovic I took out. Mitrovic I thought was injured. Um, but he
Scored a
suddenly
penalty yesterday.
he went to Lourdes and he must have had a miraculous recovery or something like that. But I think they said he was going to be out for about 2 weeks or something like that. But he's suddenly back.
Tough
Um,
bastard.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. But that's the way it's been. Jesus, he's cropped up a few times for me as well with assists and with goals and stuff like that. Haaland obviously has been electric. Although I didn't captain him in the first few weeks. I switched from I had Salah in there originally as my captain, and he was so
Hmm.
blunt I took him out, and then I had Haaland and I captained Haaland then. But I've been floating my captaincy between Haaland and Jesus, depending on who they're playing. Like
Yeah.
I took the captaincy off Haaland, and I think I put on Jesus for the Manchester derby, because I thought I had a feeling the goals might come for somewhere else, and they kind of did really. But yeah, yeah, that was kind of the thinking. The kind of thinking at the moment is who's going to crop up with either goals from deep or assists, and that's how I kind of structured it.
Yeah, I swapped what's his name? Salah out last week for Saka. They both scored today, so that didn't really affect things. But I never
Yeah,
thought like at the start of the season that I'd be subbing kind of Mo Salah out of my team. And now
yeah,
maybe it's time to get him back in if he's going to be hitting the form. And if he plays like he did today, he surely
mm.
might have to go back in, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, does that would definitely be that would definitely be some of the thinking. All right. Although I think the West Ham game, it's a tough game, really. So
Mm.
it'd be interesting for him to be in there.
50 points, I think, is a respectable total. That'd be always my kind of goal for the week, to hit 50 points. But I think that
Yeah,
threshold has kind of went up this year with the way Haaland's been banging them in and people have been captaining him. Like it's a very high scoring league, even at the moment, compared to normal
yeah.
years. As you'll see, I'll have a look now at the percentage of people that own Haaland. Sure, it's got to be crazy.
I'd
So
be surprised. Pers-
82.4%.
yeah,
That is fucking
have
crazy, isn't it?
Holland. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mad, isn't it? It's mad, and something, rightly
Yeah.
so, and look, even today, I mean, you would have expected. It wouldn't be a stretch to have expected Holland to score one or two today.
Yeah.
Um,
This was my team anyway. I didn't do too well
yeah,
this week at all, to be honest with you. One
yeah,
clean sheet there, Saliba.
mm,
Midfield, then Saka got a couple of points. Pereira
yeah,
got an assist. Harry Kane, though, he's a constant one as well. He got another goal, so I'm going to keep
yeah.
him in there as well. And I'm not sure about Sterling, so maybe I'll have to swap Mountain for Sterling.
Yeah, Sterling's that kind of interesting one where he can have a brilliant week for you, and then he can go missing for 2 weeks, and then crop up in another week and stuff like that. He's always been like that, even for City. If you look at him playing for City, in a month he'd have maybe two outstanding performances and two bang average performances, but because he was in a great City side, he gets carried through, and it's kind of
Yeah,
similar with Chelsea at the moment as well. There's no questioning his work rate and his work off the ball and all that kind of stuff that he puts in, but in terms of goals and assists and stuff like that, he tends
he's
to come in
finishing,
and have a yeah, yeah,
you
his
know.
finishing, but he tends to do okay in the end.
Yeah. We're going to take a look now at your team coming up this week because, as we said, there's no City and Arsenal this week because Arsenal have to
Mm,
play that rescheduled Europa game.
mm.
So, this is the way I have it here. Do you want to talk me through it?
Yeah, well, I had to take six players out
Hmm.
because I had three Arsenal players in and three City players in. So what I did was Aubameyang is in a rich vein of form at the moment. He's scoring and stuff like that. So I've put him in and I've put him in as my captain for Chelsea. Chelsea are
Hmm.
playing really well at the moment, and I think they have is it Brentford up next for them?
Yeah, Brentford away.
Am I
Yeah.
right? Brentford away, and I think that could be a happy hunting ground. I know Brentford played well at the weekend and stuff like that, but I put Aubameyang in there. Kane, I obviously put in. I replaced Jesus with Kane. And I put him in. Mainly my thinking around Kane is because he takes the penalties as well. He
Yeah.
could be good for a goal and stuff like that. And I think they're playing United this week, isn't it?
United away, yeah.
Spurs, yeah, United away. So you might get a penalty out of that or something.
Yeah.
Scamacca I left in there just because, the volume of changes that you can make and stuff like that. Bruno's in there. I put Mount in. Mount replaced Foden.
Yeah.
So Mount in a rich vein of form as well. Always likely maybe to get an assist if he doesn't get on the score sheet. He's playing really well at the moment and stuff like that. Looks like he has one eye on the World Cup at the moment and the way he's playing. So that's always a good sign. And Trossard's gone back in. So this week I have Trossard and Bruno in there. So Trossard went in and
Yeah.
replaced Saka
Yeah.
because Saka had to come out. And then in the back, I basically took out Saliba, I think it was. Saliba, and I put in Cucurella. Cash was already back in there. Trippier I have in there because he's always good maybe for a free kick or an assist.
Yeah.
He's quite attacking and stuff like that. And Neko was just a bench player that I had to use. He was pretty good at the start of the season, racking up the points, and then Forest have kind of fallen away and found their level. And Sa in goals, he's been really good for me.
Solid.
Although Wolves have been quite blunt, they haven't been giving up many goals. So you're always in line maybe for a clean sheet. So that
Yeah.
was the thinking. So I had to bring in two. So I think I had to spend 8 points it was on transfers. I had to bring
Yeah.
in Mount and I had to bring in Aubameyang. But the others were all kind of a mix mash.
I didn't I didn't bother I'm going to go into mine there now. I didn't bother actually sacrificing the points because I was just thinking in my head, I'll probably still have these players by the time. Now, we don't know when this Man City Arsenal game is going to be, really. It could be, I don't know, it could be January or February. It's not going to be this side of Christmas anyway, that's for sure. So I just said, you know what, I'll keep what points I have and I'll just take a gamble. I think I made one change, was all.
Okay.
And so I'm actually going to be playing with 10 men this week.
Okay.
So I'll show you what I've done. So if I just zoom in there a little bit. So I'm going with Sanchez in goal, Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
I have Cancelo in there. He's obviously not going to play. Nathan Collins is back this week. And he was very impressive before the break. Now, Malaysia is another one that I think I may have to take out going forward because I think Luke Shaw is back in favour at Old Trafford now.
Yeah.
Nico Williams, the midfield then, Sterling, Gross, Pereira,
Yeah, so
and Reed.
you're quite hampered there in defence, aren't you? Because out of four there, you have two that's really going to give you points and stuff like that. And obviously Sanchez and goals as well. Who's your spare goalkeeper?
My spare goalkeeper is Dean Henderson.
Dean Henderson. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Sanchez has been coughing up a few goals recently as well, hasn't he?
And look, we have both of the same captain this week and the same idea.
Yeah, it was a good show. Yeah. And Kane. Yeah, Kane's there
Aubameyang
as
and
well.
Kane. Yeah, so I'll only be having two strikers this week. But yeah, it's going to be another interesting week anyway. And the games are coming thick and fast. So we'll be having another show now on going into the weekend again for Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I suppose that one player that you're keeping there, Cancelo, it's probably worth sacrificing the 4 points if you can put someone in there like if you can pick out someone decent maybe because Cancelo's worth a few quid, so
Yeah.
you should be able to put someone pretty decent in there.
Yeah. Well, there's also what I've been thinking was the free hit chip. Have you used that?
Haven't used anything yet.
Oh, you should have used that because it gives you the free hit will give you unlimited transfers for this week, and then it'll just reset your team to the original next week.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
So
I haven't used anything yet. So
yeah, that's what if I do change things around, that's probably what I will do. But I might I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
I like to have 11 players all with a chance of supplying in points because as you said, the level every week now, if you're not 50 or above, you're not really in the races and stuff like that. Even some of the weeks, if you look in our own league, 60, 65 points has been a bad week for some. When you see the averages that are out there and the highs, I think my highest was 105 or 104 one week or something like that. Yeah, which is a huge points total, so.
But I think a lot of people will be in the same boat next week, especially with the people that have been relying on Haaland and Man City players and a few Arsenal players as well. I think it'd be interesting to see what people do. I reckon a lot of people might use that free hit chip. I might use it. Don't think I will, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah. No, I've held off on using anything like that yet because you know yourself, once you get into the kind of Christmas period or something like that, where you have multiple games in a week and all that kind of stuff, that's when those little things come in nice and handy. Or you could use it even in the week, maybe in the week where you should look at using some of those things in the week where you have the City game that's been postponed, because you'll have a double game one week when others won't and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's a good time to bring your boys back in and stuff like that, you know.
yeah. I think
Um,
that's going to be probably next year anyway. I can't see it fitting it into this
yeah,
year anyway.
yeah. But that's my thinking always. When I'm putting players in, Darren put me wide to this, because before, like, you know, I'd have the usual in there. You'd have Virgil van Dijk and, you know,
Yeah.
Konate and stuff like that. And they although the odd time they crop up for goals off corners and stuff like that, they don't really get a lot of assists. So
Mm.
you're sort of constructing your defense. Darren always said to me, construct your defense in such a way that, like, all those players can potentially get assists, if not score and stuff like that. Cucurella, I've been a bit disappointed in. He was really good when he was at Brighton in terms of points,
He-
but as soon as he went to
He's
Chelsea,
yeah,
he hasn't been as he's been been used in more of a controlled role and stuff like that.
he's in a back three now, and he's not providing the width there. The likes of Ben Chilwell and
Yeah,
James were doing
yeah.
that. And I know James is going to be out
Where
now for a while.
he was always great for an assist when he was playing for Brighton and stuff like that. So he was great in fantasy football. So he might be one that I'll need to take a look at, I'd say. But I've nothing on the bench this week, so if anything goes kind of skew-ways, I mean, Saka, Saliba, and De Bruyne, I kept them on the bench there, so I can float them back in after the midweek games, um, and then we'll see who we stick with.
Yeah, my thinking for the back is normally just get them kind of cheap, like because there's not a lot of clean sheets in the league. But then if you're putting in defenders, as you were saying, kind of you want to make sure they're either good in the air or they're an
Mm.
attacking fullback, really.
Yeah, see, I didn't invest them. It wasn't huge money in the back line at all. But I did pick guys that potentially, you know, take free kicks or tend to be playing kind of like wing backs. Like Trippier is a really good one to have on your side, because he's always either good for a good free kick or an assist coming in or something like that, you know. Sa I put in there as well. So, you know, most people might put Allison in there or Edison or something like that, you know, but
Yeah,
you don't want to be spending that amount of money really. So Sa I put in there. So Wolves, they haven't been coughing up goals too cheap. And generally speaking, he's returned a few points for me this season. He's been decent.
yeah. They
Um,
don't score a lot of goals and they don't concede a lot of
exactly.
goals either. You
Exactly,
know.
but my thinking in defence is never like I never pick my defenders based on clean sheets. I had this chat with Darren about that. I always pick defenders
Hmm.
based on whether they can get an assist or get a goal or a free kick or something like that, a set piece. And that's how I
Exactly.
picked them, because there's so few clean sheets in the Premier League ever, even in the top level, even with the
Yeah.
top teams and stuff like that. They're always good to cough up a goal or something. So that just wipes you out. And if you've got a guy in there like imagine if you played the first 8 games this year or the first 10 games this year, and like you'd Van Dyke in there, or you know
Trent.
Matip or Trent, or you know what I mean. Well, Trent is, in fairness to Trent, at times he hasn't performed, but at times he's scored and he's had assists,
Mm.
but nowhere near the level you would expect. But Robbo might be one to watch. Robbo might be a good one to put back in as well. He looks like he's back in form again. He looks refreshed and back since the injury and stuff like that. He
And
could
he's
be a good
cheaper as
one.
well.
Yeah, and he's not overly expensive, yeah, but he's always potentially good for an assist or something, you know, or you know, if you get your back line, any of those guys who go up to take corners and stuff like that is always a good one, you know. Corners, penalties, set pieces, or assists. Is always a good one to judge your back line and stuff like that. So, yeah, because that's really the difference between you having a 50-point week and having a 70-point week, is that back line, really, you know. And as you said, you don't get too many clean sheets. So it's really what they do going forward, even as defenders. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
We're just on a side note then, aside from the fantasy football, there's a lot of managers there under pressure at the minute. Who can you see facing the axe next? Who do you think's in bother? I
It,
think your guy Ralph is in a bit of bother.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned that the other
And
night on the
Frank,
show as well. I think Frank will be okay.
mm,
Because I think Frank, he'll grind out results. You know what I mean?
he
He'll get
steadied the
one.
ship.
Yeah, he's done well in terms of what he has to work with in there and stuff like that. And Calvert Lewin being out for so long as well, they've been a bit blunt up front. Frank should be okay. Stevie needs to figure out what he's doing there very, very quick, or he's going to find himself down the job centre. And likewise,
Yeah,
the other Liverpool connection there, Rogers, needs to be really
yeah,
careful as well, because it must be very close for him as well, because when you get down there. when you get down there into that bottom 5 or 6 and you're fighting out, it's a long, hard season. And the problem for him is he's lost players. Casper was a huge loss, came out of nowhere,
Yeah, I
suddenly went to
don't know what's
Nice.
going on there.
Very strange. Fofana, well, he basically touted himself out to Chelsea and all, and made it very clear on social media he wanted to leave. But he was a huge player. Now I know now he's out injured and stuff like that, but he was a huge player for Leicester. Um, and then of course you've got Maddison and Tillemans, um, who have been touting themselves out as well. Maddison was heavily linked with Newcastle. Tillemans was heavily linked with yourselves and a couple of other teams and stuff like that as well. So clearly those boys want out as well. So I know once the window closes, then you know where you are and you want to play and you'll galvanise yourself and stuff like that. But I think with Rodgers as well, he's been unlucky with a lot of injuries as well. And he's had to play in Didi in defence and he's had to make shifted around at times and stuff like that.
And the
But
goalkeeper's piss poor as well.
absolutely, he's nowhere near
Yeah.
the level and stuff like that. And the problem they have is they financial constraints there as well. I think through financial fair play as well and stuff like that. So it's not a great recipe for them there. It might not necessarily be his fault that he's fired. It could be just the environment and the situation that he finds himself in. And he's a couple of players there as well that aren't really hitting the heights that they should be hitting. You know, Vardy has come on another year and he's pretty much off the
Yeah.
boil. He's normally, you think about Jamie Vardy, you'd nearly have him in your fantasy team. He's normally good for a goal and stuff like that.
I think the
Hasn't really
legs are
been
gone.
done, but was potentially, yeah. And who's the other lad? Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes is in there as well. He's been okay in fits and spurts, but not really hit the level either. Madison, you'll always get a tune out of Madison, but again, if his mind is elsewhere and he's thinking of other stuff. And then the other thing you have as well is all these guys have one eye on the World Cup at the moment. And a lot of players are like that, playing like that at the moment. Like if you look at Virgil van Dijk, today has probably been, even though it's a huge win and stuff, that today has probably been his best performance. He looked like the Virgil van Dijk of old. He was getting stuck
Yeah.
in. He was tracking back. He wasn't doing silly things like standing off players and showing them a line or whatever it is. He was going out and heading off and facing it off and stuff like that, which is good to see and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Obviously, Jota going off injured. I hope he's okay. I
Concerned.
hope it's nothing serious, and I hope it certainly doesn't affect his World Cup and stuff like that. But that's the risk that these boys are playing at the moment, and that's the stupidity of having a World Cup in the middle of a season. Imagine you could be a week out from the World Cup or 2 weeks out from the World Cup, and you
It's
have a
going to
Premier
happen.
League game. Someone's definitely going to miss it. You look at Reece James. Looks like Reece James is going to miss out now. What an opportunity that he's going to miss out on and now because of the structure of this and stuff. Off injured, didn't seem like something major at the time. They thought maybe a week or 2 weeks. Said it on the Monday mashup, and on the Tuesday it came out, and now he's going to miss about 8 weeks, so he's out of the World Cup, and that's heartbreaking for a young lad like him and stuff like that. He was fundamental to England's success. I think he's a huge loss. And I think
Yeah.
they'll probably bring in your friend Ben White, I would imagine.
Yeah, Ben White's been
Because
okay.
yeah,
He
I'd
doesn't put a
imagine
foot wrong.
he'll be the one that's called up because I don't know whether Trent, with the way things have gone, I don't know whether he'd have the appetite to even go now. To be honest, it might have soured him a bit. To be honest,
Yeah.
yeah. So listen, whoever doesn't go, it's good for us as supporters of the club.
Yeah.
If they stay away from the World Cup and they're able to chill out and do like a little bit of like a mini mid pre-season kind of thing and stuff like that. And like, to be honest with you, going to Qatar and carrying the oranges, I'd rather sit at home and watch it with my family than
Yeah.
to be there and not be used. Because I think even if he does bring Trent, I don't think he'll give him minutes. I don't think he'll play him because Southgate's made up his mind to be just filling numbers, to be honest.
He is
Um,
the most stubborn manager, I think, on the planet. And as I said to you, like he's gonna die on that hill with those
he's
guys,
the
with
reason.
Jordan Pickford.
He's the reason they fall short.
Yeah, he's gonna die on the hill with Jordan Pickford and fucking Harry Maguire.
Pope, Pope's had a disaster. Jeez,
Yeah.
that international break for Pope was horrific. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that he stuck with him and Ramsdale didn't get a minute, kind of thing,
Doesn't
is
fancy him.
shocking. Yeah, but it's just something that's absolutely crazy. He probably doesn't fancy him because he knows he's a lunatic and he's passionate and he's emotional. Whereas Pope would be more kind of on the level, regardless of how he's playing. But
Mm.
he's an absolute disaster. And Pickford is a bit sort of, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
Be
be relying
surprised.
on him.
Imagine Pickford picking up a World Cup as a winner. It's hard to say it, isn't it? It's hard to say it, you know what I mean? But the gas
It's
thing
very hard.
about it, they're absolutely drenched in talent. They're
Yeah.
drenched in talent. I don't think there's a national team out there that has as much choice in every position and as much talent available to them, and they don't bring them in and monopolise it. That last 2 weeks of that international break was absolutely meaningless, meaningless. And he
Yeah.
should have been bringing lads in. He should have been bedding lads in and all. But what does he do? He goes with the usual. He goes with the usual stuff to try it and test it. You don't need a warm up for the World Cup. Sure, he has 2 weeks for that. They're
Yeah.
breaking 2 weeks before it even starts. So that's where he should have been taking a look at, guys. That's where the likes of arguably Ramsdale should have played both those games and had a
I'm
look at
looking.
them and see did he want them or did he not want them.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
looking forward to Iran toppling them in the first game. Anyway.
can you imagine? Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Can you imagine?
I was looking at their group and I was thinking, Jesus, when is that USA game? And I was flicking through my phone. And I was like, okay, the USA game's the 25th of November. I'm in Dublin that night
Mm.
doing a gig, so I'll definitely be out in the pub beforehand watching that.
Mm.
Because I think the USA will give them a right going as well.
Yeah, there's some great players coming through. Your man Aronson off Leeds
Leeds,
looks
yeah.
to business and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So there's some really good players coming through from America.
Yeah.
Strangely enough,
Yeah.
and I think they'll give them a real good game. They had a real good qualifying campaign. And I think it's not going to be easy for them. They could find themselves on the plane home a lot quicker than they think, which will be great for the Premier League. So as the managers will be delighted, because they'll want their players back, because you know yourself, it's just you could be absolutely flying top of the league there, and it'd be just like Jesus to go out and hurt himself badly in a Brazilian game or something like that,
Yeah.
and then he's gone for the season, or Saka get hurt on England duty. You know how he runs him into the ground. He
Yeah.
nearly plays
Left back.
every minute. Never, left back. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. You know what I mean? Or you look at Chelsea. If Chelsea are going really well, you know you have Mason Mount there and stuff like that and all. And you know
Anyone
it's
but
gonna,
Mason.
yeah. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting, because there's a lot of teams. I'd say there's a lot of managers now during this World Cup are going to have a few sleepless nights worrying about who's going to come back, and especially if you're up there in the top 3 or top 4 in the Premier League and you're fighting it out for honours. Because top 4 it's either top 4 now or bust, isn't it? Really, these days, you have to get the
Yeah.
wealth and the money in for that to attract the players in. I mean, we've been heavily linked with Jude Bellingham, but is Jude Bellingham going to come to Liverpool if they finish 5th or 6th? I wouldn't have thought so.
Is Jude Bellingham going to light up the World Cup? Very much doubt it.
I don't know. It's hard to know. You know, it's. Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great international break either and stuff like that. You know, but it's weird. I suppose the problem for Southgate as well is Southgate tends to take these players in and he doesn't play them in their club position. So it's
Yeah.
foreign to them as well, you know what I mean? Whereas if you look at Joe Bellingham, he generally most weeks he's lighting up the Bundesliga. Now I know it's a level down and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but even when you see Dortmund playing against some of the decent German teams and in the Champions League, they've done all right now. Against Man City at times he looked a little bit ordinary and stuff like that. But again, Man City make players look ordinary, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Dortmund
Yeah.
looked ordinary at times. I know they had a couple of spells in that game and stuff like that where they looked all right, but it's hard to know really. You know, I just hope a couple of other stars come out of the woodwork outside of the English players and stuff like that, so we can sign a few players in January, because we have to go into the market in January. We when you look at our bench today, we're decimated, you know what I mean? And the options, you know, okay, Milner had a great game today. He did really, really well. Hendo came on.
But
Carvalho came on.
Milner won't be able to do 3 games this week, though. That's the problem.
No, he won't. And you know something? It's wrong of the club to even expect it. They shouldn't expect it. He signed a 1 year extension at his age, and I know he's fit as a fiddle and he looks after himself and all. But how long is he operating in the well, he's 21 years or something now, or 20
Yeah.
years or something like that, operating in the Premier League. The wear and tear on his body must be huge, even for a guy who keeps himself really good. And I'm sure we gave him a 1 year extension, thinking a couple of FA Cup games, a couple of Carabao Cup games, and maybe a couple of substitution games where he comes on when a game is kind of done for the last
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes just to shore things up. For 6 or 7 games, he's been thrust in at times into tough games and stuff like that, has fallen short and has ended up getting a wave of hate off the Liverpool fan base. And to be honest with you, the wave of hate there and issue shouldn't be directed at him. Should be directed at the gaffer and the owners who didn't do what they should have done in the summer. It's
Yeah.
not his fault, you know what I mean? You can't expect him, as you said. Imagine him trying to play 3 games this week after the shift he put in today. That was an unbelievable shift from him today.
Yeah.
So sometimes the issues are misdirected, as they say, and not at the right people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So me and you, Me and you went off on a massive tangent anyway from fantasy football, but
Yeah.
just before we wrap up, just tell us what you've got coming up in the lead up to the World Cup on the channel.
Yeah, well, we have the usual. I mean, we do the Monday mashup on the Monday, and then we do the Thursday tier talk on the Thursday. Then we have all in between that tends to be the Shankly sessions with match previews, match reactions, and player ratings, all that kind of stuff. We obviously you do the fantasy show every week that goes up as well. I think we're going to track the World Cup this year, so we will be doing shows on it, but we're going to do other stuff as well. We'll do some kind of fun shows, like combined 11s and various things like that, kind of fun shows that you do.
Hmm.
And I know Mark is obviously following the women's side of things and stuff like that. So he probably plans, I know in 2023 when the girls go off to play in the World Cup and stuff like that, he's going to be doing regular shows on that and stuff like that. Mark's a huge advocate for the women's football and stuff like that. Talks about it and follows it all the time. So he's closer to it than any of us. And he's refed a lot of the games and stuff like that. So he knows a lot of the girls and stuff like that
I've
from
got
when
a
they
name.
played at
I've
club
got a
level.
name. I've got a name for his show.
Go on.
Graffiti on the wall.
Graffiti on the wall.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Can you imagine? What did you? I mean, the kickback was crazy, wasn't it? It was absolutely crazy, wasn't
Look, as soon as I seen that video, I knew
it?
what was going to happen. I sent it to you.
Yeah,
Didn't really bother me. I didn't really care.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
knew what was coming. But it's dying
yeah,
down now. People won't remember that next week.
yeah. Yeah,
Short-term memories.
they'll remember it when the World Cup comes around to try and throw it out there into the papers and derail things and stuff like that. But it's
But
just,
it, but to the normal guy, like
yeah,
I played that song the other
yeah,
night now in a fucking rock bar. Last song, everyone was going mad.
mm,
To like the normal guy on the street that's not in the media or politician or someone that has to
mm,
speak in a certain way.
yeah,
Those girls are like fucking heroes to everyone now after that. You know?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. No, it's just one of those things that when it's a slow news day and they don't want to congratulate us on our achievements and stuff like that, they find a way to go about it a different way. Look, it's the girls, they want to be treated professionally, they want the professional game to rise up for them and stuff like that, they want to be rewarded professionally as well, and rightly so. So just a little bit of I wouldn't go as far as to say education, just a slight bit more cop on. I wouldn't dare tell someone that they need some education or anything
Yeah.
like that. Not a chance. I think that's as much of a slur as you can throw on someone. Tell them that more education. It's a
Yeah,
bit
that was
sort of
shit.
stupid.
With it,
Yeah,
without even going into details, there's a lot worse that we've read and seen that goes on in the men's game than that little incident, and we can leave it at that and not mention
yeah,
any names.
that's it.
So
Yeah,
look,
absolutely.
pleasure to do the show with you, man. Your own show.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll hopefully catch up and do it again.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on as a guest. Pleasure as always.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, share, and what's Del by say, and all that bollocks.
All that good stuff.